Good afternoon. Thanks everybody to join us in this special meeting, Madrid Van Gogh, powered by Quiero, in partnership with Corporate Excellence and the support of Sustainable Brands. For around 1 hour more or less, we'll try to analyze and understand how this crisis is going to impact on companies and brands from the core of the business, the purpose. We have seen these days how purpose has been tested, and we have seen so many companies that have put this purpose into action, others not. We are wondering at Quiero how to build a more resilient brands and companies, and what's the role of the purpose. Today, we'll try to answer these questions in the frame of the project, A Better Way. Let me tell you something about A Better Way. A Better Way is a global platform with global and choral conversations with experts on America, Asia, and Europe. We try to understand how to do better many of the things that we are already doing and advance towards sustainability. We deep on 5 dimensions in which we are working from Quiero and Sustainable Brands. These dimensions are governance and transparency, purpose, supply chain, brand influence, products, and services. Today we have great experts on sustainability, transparency, also purpose. From Van Gogh, we have, I want to welcome Nui Laikaful. Nui, I don't know if I have pronounced well your surname. Thank you too much for your generosity. Thank you. I know that it's very late in Thailand, so thank you a lot. You are healthy, I know, because we have spoken. How about Thailand? How are you going in this crisis, Nui?
I think the crisis in Thailand is pretty much under control because the government look after the policies and everything quite well. And besides, the healthcare system in Thailand is supposed to be right now one of the best. So we have a high rate of the people who recover from the COVID, and people tend to look after each other. So I think the situation is quite positive. I think we should enter into the phase 3 of the COVID pretty soon.
So little by little, step by step, Nui, thank you too much. I'm happy to hear that.
Back into the new normal.
I'm happy to hear about that, Nui. I want to welcome to Xavier from the corporate side. He is Beauty and Corporate Marketing Director at Procter & Gamble, Spain. Hello, Javier, how are you?
Hello, thank you for the invitation. I'm fine.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Javier, you have the challenge to align the corporate purpose with the brand purpose in your company. Maybe we can speak a little more about that later.
Sure.
Ángela Loza, hello, good afternoon. Ángel is CEO of Corporate Excellence, a collaboration platform, a think tank. We can say that, isn't it, Ángel?
Yes, it's a think tank. The objective of the think tank is innovation, training, and sharing knowledge. It's being created by large companies to help each other and also to expand this knowledge about intangibles to the rest of the companies all over the world. So that's our purpose.
Okay, Angel, maybe you can help us to understand how can we work together, all the companies, in that new normality. And finally, Sandra, I welcome Sandra Pina, our General Director at Quiero. Quiero is a platform focused on sustainability with more than 10 years of experience in Spain. Sandra is also part of the advisory board of Sustainable Brands. Hello, Sandra, how are you?
Hi, Raquel, many thanks, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Before I start speaking with you, I would like to remember the attendees that we have a chat in Zoom in which you can send all the questions you have. We'll try to answer with the experts at the end of the meeting. And finally, you can follow us in real time on Twitter with the hashtag A Better Way. So let's start. This is a conversation between friends, and I would like to start with Nui. I mentioned before that in these days we have seen how purpose has been put into a test, has been put into action in for some companies and others not. Do you think that this test, this exit test, is going to impact on trust for some companies?
I think before I get to the answer of that question, let me discuss a bit on the concept of purpose, okay? I think the concept of purpose is like a concept of branding. People talk about it. People talk about it in so many ways, but very few people understand the real meaning of purpose and put that into action. Because purpose is like a goal. So you can just say that, oh, we should have a goal in life. We should have a purpose in business. But the question is, what kind of purpose? Okay, what kind of purpose? Because if you just say that we should have a purpose, it can be anything. And I think according to the COVID, it's proof to us that even the term purpose need a better way to define it, okay? If you show my slide, I would like to talk according to the slide. Do you have the slide number 1?
Yes, of course.
Okay. If you follow me, okay, I think the key idea about this slide is I want to say that the purpose of the brand or the corporation that the world needs right now has to be people-centric purpose, not profit-centric. It has to be, according to my personal observation and practice in branding, it has to be people-centric. Even though we say that we have to go with the triple bottom line, profit, people, planet. But at the end of the day, what is the most important is people. So the purpose should be the people-centric. And if you want to put the purpose into action, you have to make sure that all of the business principle follow the purpose. If you cannot put the purpose as a guideline for the business principle, brand behavior, is no point, right? It's just like we need to say that, oh, first we have CSR, and then we move into the CSV, and the difference between CSR and CSV is the CSV should be in the vision and mission, same thing. If you feel like purpose is important, it has to be people-centric and put it into the business principle, okay? And once you practice it, okay, you will get something that I think is very important and is part of the motivation that can keep the corporation to go on. People with a good principle will have pride in whatever they do. The employee will be so proud to work for this corporation. The customer will be so honored to be a part of this brand. So pride is something that gives business, that gives brand the integrity, all right? Yes. And with the good principle, with the pride, the last P that you would have from having the right purpose, people-centric purpose, is protection. Sandra, if you recall in our last conversation, I mentioned about the term brand immunity. And I think purpose is a starting point to take along brand and business to get to the point of the protection. And you know that with the COVID, every single soul realized the importance of immunity, right? So if business and brand got the good protection, either from the advocacy of the customer, engagement of the stakeholder, it's very easy for them to take the journey into the sustainability, okay? So to answer to your question, I think it's about time that every brand, every business has to take the purpose seriously. Otherwise, I don't think you can have the right resilience, right?
Yeah.
You can survive in the short term, but in the long term, I don't think you will last that long if you don't have the right purpose to take you along the journey of sustainability.
It's very true, Nui. Sandra, purpose is not a tagline, as Nui says. What do you think?
I think we've had a lot of conversations, Nui, you and me, about this, but in short, it's true that during a long period, you'll be expected to answer this question. When the world faced COVID, what did you do to help? No? And I think that there are winners and losers in answering this question. I agree with Nui that in a way, let's say that traditional way of doing left the supply chain and some employees, many employees exposed to suffering. And I agree in the way that this crisis, I think, is about caring for those who are more vulnerable in a way, no? Those employees have lower wages, small suppliers or suppliers in the gig economy, and actually investors, media, citizens, consumers are going to be observing and assessing what we are doing. I'm sure you've seen all the last Edelman Trust Barometer on COVID, and it was saying that only 43% of people believe that companies were protecting their employees enough. And for me, that was a bit shocking, no? And I think that this is when you think sometimes that maybe the purpose is misunderstood sometimes, as Nui was saying. And in fact, I really do believe that the primary audience of purpose should be employees. Those are the first ones, no? And as a consequence, consumers will see real purpose in you, because if your employees are really engaged and actually they turn their engagement into the desired behavior, that would be obvious for consumers, yeah? So in a way, this is what we are facing now, no? And so everybody's watching, so it's a hard moment for everybody, but as well for those who need to live up to their purpose.
Yes, Sandra, you are speaking about employees, how to protect them. And I was wondering, I wanted to ask Xavier and also Angel, how can we engage employees around the purpose? How can we do that?
Well, I'll take it. First, a thought. This is something that, from my experience, on brands, managing brands here and there, I've noticed, I don't know if actually it's proven, but I do have this intuition that brands end up looking like the people that manage them. So if you put a brand in the hands of someone over, probably not in a year, especially on a high heritage brand, but after some time, the values and the drivers of that person, typically that team, will reflect on the brand. If you take it to the extreme of talking about a big company, it's the same. The way employees understand the company they work in, the values that they have, will end up affecting what the brand is, and that will project. Mm-hmm. So to the point you were making, how important employees are, while it has not always been the first priority when building or transmitting purpose, it is clear now that it's critical, because it will end up creating the brand that they're working on. And we have all experienced that there's no better ambassador of a company than their own employees. In many ways, not only the pride they may have, but the way they talk about it, how connected or engaged they feel with the company will impact. So on living a purpose, you need to have your employees engaged. Otherwise, you're not having a real purpose. It's going to be the front line of executing that. Now, there are some businesses where this is more true, the businesses where the employees are actually facing consumers, right? It is not our case, with some exceptions, because we manufacture and we commercialize brands, but still, I mean, it shows in the communication we do, in the way we talk to customers, etc. Now, how you engage employees? Look, I was thinking about that, and the first thing you need to do is you need to communicate your purpose. So that sounds obvious, but there are many companies that, or even brands within companies that may not be doing a good job in just communicating what the purpose is. If you make the employees part of the creation of that purpose, even better, but start from communicating what it is. Then nothing more powerful than to role model that purpose. Okay, so yes, it's fantastic to have one, but you need to show you're true to it. And there's an element of role modeling from management, but more importantly about the acts that the company does, or the brand. I always refer to company and brands because for P&G, it ends up being slightly different thing. And then I would say you need to make people participating into these actions that you take to bring purpose to life. And you also need to reward, typically even better if it's publicly, the behaviors that drive into that purpose. Again, it's like any internal communication you do, but this is even more important because you will only believe in the purpose if you feel that this is actually being brought to life. And you need to be honest and transparent, so you cannot cheat on the purpose, right? And the employees would immediately understand. So I would say nothing very revolutionary, but communicate it, act on it, so role model and reward. And if you make employees participate, even better.
Yes, you have to live the purpose, as you say. You have to communicate the purpose. And of course, you have to involve employees on that. Angel, what do you think? We can't hear you, Angel. You are mute.
Do you have to unmute
Yes.
the microphone?
Now, that's
Now.
perfect. That's perfect.
Okay. Sorry for that. No, I was saying that I would like to take a step back and try to understand why purpose is so important today and why purpose is going to become much more important in the future. In fact, it is a need for companies because purpose is redefining the role of companies, but not today as a consequence of the crisis. It is a trend which has been there for years because it is about the way we create value in companies or in organizations at large. So we have seen in the last few years a revolution in the context, in the economic and social context where we live. And if I may say, I would like to use the name, the intangible economy. We have been seeing, just to give you an example, 50,000 companies, listed companies in different stock exchanges all over the world. If we analyze the total value of those companies, 50% is tangible and 50% is intangible. And this varies a lot across sectors where you may find that the largest companies in the Standard & Poor listed, the value of the intangibles is more than 80% of the total value of companies. So when you realize that, the key thing is to understand why, what has happened. And if I show in a very simplistic way what has happened, I can use my hands and see that the way companies and organizations create value is basically by a balance between creating a sustainable differentiation and then getting your license to operate. It has been true 200 years ago, today, and tomorrow. So the key information here is that the elements which are building differentiation and getting the access to your license to operate have changed from tangible to intangible. So differentiation in the past was based on new products and services, but today differentiation is based on your purpose, your brand, your reputation, and communication. So all the fundamental pillars who are giving you a sustainable differentiation are intangible. On the other side, when thinking about legitimacy, you have the same thing. In the past, it was about, it was a legal issue, absolutely 100% tangible. Today, it is not enough. You need social legitimacy. You need the different stakeholders. You need them to want you to exist. If not, you're going to lose your license to operate. And again, the way you manage this license to operate is by managing your reputation. And reputation is, again, an intangible resource. And this explains why those intangibles have rocketed. And the crisis we are living now is just accelerating the same trend. And if I have to select the first one, the most important one amongst those intangibles, the one that you have to work with, if you have a roadmap of managing your different intangibles, you have to start by defining your purpose.
Angel, you have spoken about the different stakeholders you have to be in contact all the time through your purpose. That's a challenge, you know, how to engage other stakeholders as clients, suppliers, etc., around your purpose. What do you think, Sandra, Nui, Javier?
As a first thing, I would like to add on what, especially what Javier was saying. I've had many conversations these days with different leaders around the world on this project in a better way. And just a quick insight. I've heard a lot about investing time in middle management, no? Because sometimes you have a CEO with a clear vision. You have maybe some young people on the bottom that are enthusiastic about the area. And then you have sometimes very big organizations, and it's a challenge to bring coherence in every corner on a big organization. It's normal. I mean, my company, we are 15. I mean, bringing coherence is very easy, you know, it's not the same. So I've heard a lot about middle management engagement in terms of conversations, time of reflecting together, building a relation of trust. What is this about when your CEO comes, everything is in order and in place, no? I'm sure you've seen that before, no? It's like my CEO is coming, and if my product is in the supermarket in front of my office, that supermarket is perfect. All my products are there. No. It's like building honest relations, spending time of conversation, reflecting together. And to be honest, and linking to what Javier was saying before, I think that this is not what we were taught in our business schools when we studied marketing and business, no? And I really believe that to bring the coherence we need in the day-to-day between the vision sometimes and the rest of the organization, we need to be able to have more and better conversations, to be more humanistic on that side. And I would say that when you bring the human side and the professional side and you put them together, the professional side is legal, yeah? And this is another thing that I think nobody taught us in the business school, or at least not me. Well, just leave it.
Angel, you have raised your hands. Do you want to say something?
Yes, if I may.
Okay.
The question is a very fundamental one. And we have seen so many examples of companies defining a purpose and nothing happens, that I have to come back and think about and tell you my ideas around the right methodology and the reason why sometimes nothing happened. And the basic idea is very simple. We do not define a purpose for our stakeholders. We define that purpose with them. Because what we do is thinking that we have to generate an authentic connection with different stakeholder groups and mobilize them into supportive behaviors. We're not defining a purpose just because it's nice to have. It is because if we define that purpose with them, then we are going to generate something which is common to all human beings. We are talking about identity. And all human beings have a personal purpose. And the closest your personal purpose is to the corporate purpose, then you will have an identification process. And from that perspective, we are going to have this idea of having the champions and the reputation ambassadors of our company speaking and doing quite a lot of advocacy about our company and our products. But we cannot force our employees or our clients to do that. They will only be willing to do that if they identify their values with the values of the company. That's why in the process of defining your purpose, it is essential to have a deep research-based methodology of listening not only what you want to be, which means fully understanding what the managers and the top management wants to build, which is a first circle, if you want. But if you define in this way the purpose, which is a top-down process, nothing will happen. What you have to do is to cross this circle with another circle, which is what your stakeholders are expecting from you and what are their values and their personal purpose. And finally, you have a third circle. Sorry for this. I have to use my hands because I think it's a way of understanding. So,
it's okay. It's okay.
You can cross the three circles, and just in the middle, you have your identity and the basic material that you are going to use to define your purpose. And if you do that, and I forgot to explain the third circle is your core capabilities, because you have to deliver on your purpose. So it's impossible to promise something that you are not going to deliver because we are living in a world which is completely different. So it is the intersection of those three circles, and that's where you can work to define a purpose. And then you activate that purpose through communication processes and other things. And the reason why, if you just define top-down the process and your purpose, and then you start a communication process and nothing happens, is because there was a fundamental mistake in the process of defining and creating that purpose.
Sandra, I saw you before raising your hand. Do you want to say something? Louis, yes, please, go on.
Right. Because in Thailand, we have a lot of SME, okay? And on most of my clients, I used to work for the big corporations a lot, but lately I focus my practice into the SME. And the COVID really proved to me that within the crisis, small brand, small people has a bigger purpose and act faster, okay? And what I observe from my clients who are small, one thing that I can share with you is the reason that I can say that small people has a bigger purpose, because they don't have a corporate sense. What they have is a common sense, okay? They just act like well, I think people must be hungry. I think the poor must need this. They don't have to go through a lot of analysis and data to understand that why the poor people need food, why they need the medicine, why we need to give them what our family members need. So I think right now, another way to look at how we can define the purpose is on of the big guy, big corporation, big CEO, the people who sit on the top of the building, the C-suite, they have to use more of the common sense, because when people really need something, they cannot wait for 1 week or 2 weeks to get approval from the management, right? So the more we can get make the business and brand, if I may use the what Sandra just say, be more humanized, understand people as people. You don't have to treat them. I think the term stakeholder make us define people like they are partner, they are customer, they are investor. But actually, after all, everyone are people. Okay. So if we go down to the basic, the essential of life right now, and we try to use more of the common sense, I think that is one way that we can define the purpose to be more humanized and answer to the need of the well-being of the society. This is my observation that I learned for my SME in Thailand, and I feel like it's very impactful. It's very impactful.
Right. As you say, people is suffering now, and we need brands more human. Xavier, how to activate brands for good under a strong corporate purpose? You have the challenge also of aligning this corporate purpose with the brand purpose. How to activate brands for good?
So, I mean, just echoing what Neil was saying, there's not such a thing as a corporation doing stuff. There are people within that are paid or belong to a corporation doing things. So when it comes to reaction to crises like the one we've just lived or we're living, again, reaction will be fast if individuals in the organization are equipped to move fast. And that takes a couple of requirements. First, they need to understand what their purpose is. And obviously, if you're a corporation, you will try to be aligned to the corporate one. But ultimately, there is a purpose in the brand or in the business unit you're working on, and that's what you should be reacting to. The second thing is that it's so in you that you don't need to get approvals, because it's going to be naturally be aligned. Okay, so, and that we've seen. I've seen it in P&G. There are certain brands that reacted in seconds because the leader, and when I say leader, it sounds a big thing, but it could be the three-year experienced brand manager on a certain brand that just decided to go. And he or she may ask for permission or not, but that is not making a big difference, because typically the answer would be yes. But they are the ones doing acting, right? And a small company is not different to a big one in that sense. It's going to be the individuals leading that will make a change. That's another phrase I got at some point, is business is done by those who are there. So it's going to be the ones that are on the front that will decide and do. So when it's activating, it's in a corporation, it's typically a bit more complex, but ultimately it comes down to the commitment and the push of the individuals managing certain things. And CEOs in big companies do little stuff. I mean, really doing, not that much. They do strategies, but what consumers sees is done by people that are have the same limitations we all have. On the question you ask, how you marry, so I mean, let's take the P&G example. P&G, different from other big corporation, is known, but is not publicly communicating typically. Okay, different from Unilever or from L'Oreal, or we do have corporate communication, but this is not something that is intended to reach consumers. We are a brands company. Okay, so each brand is doing the work, and there is some umbrella, but at the end of the day, we're not expecting consumers to know that Ariel or Gillette come from P&G. We do have a corporate purpose, but it's very open. Now, it drives certain attitude. I mean, I'm going to give you the P&G purpose. It's very simple. It says, improve consumer lives in small but meaningful ways each day. Again, it's very vague, very open. Many brands could find their way into that, but at the same time, it sets a tone. It's about consumers. So to what New was saying, you put people at the center and you put your own consumer. If there is one stakeholder that you want to serve, is ultimately the one using your product. The rest adjusts to that, but you're serving people. You're solving people's problems or solving people's tensions or improving people's life. That's your purpose. And then P&G has chosen to say things like small but meaningful ways each day. So we're not into the mega change in your life. We are into little but meaningful things that change our life. At that, it's up to the brand to understand what Ariel has to do on that, or what always AVAX will do on that. And each brand has its purpose. But there's not such a thing as there is a corporate P&G purpose that needs to be activated by each brand. No, it's a guidance that then brands translate into their own purpose. This is the way we manage it. And this is what consumers see. Then there are other stakeholders that may see the P&G activity, but brands are the core of our company.
Yes, Sandra, Xavier is talking about serving people and the purpose to serve people. What's your purpose becoming into after COVID?
I like this idea of people serving people, Javier. I mean, for me, I think we've talked about some of the things, but I think we still haven't talked about the brand acting as a catalyst for system-wide purpose-driven change. No, understand that actually leading in your company means leading in the sector, in the industry. For example, we've seen initiatives that were very interesting these days around COVID, but initiatives coming from, especially from a single company, no? Not really big disruptive things coming from industries and sectors. No? And I think this as well puts on the table the fact that we need to be very good at the human side to be able to develop real disruptive collaborations. No, you as a business, as a brand, you are not the hero, and people aren't looking towards your brand for hollow inspiration. No? Like you are God, and your brand is not the center of the universe, and you are not the big benefactor of mankind. No? Actually, I think that you will succeed when you are externally recognized by others for being on that purpose-driven journey. And actually, with all this, what is happening, I think if we can think about next steps, because maybe it's too early, you know, for that, but on purpose, I think I would advise first to analyze the learning, because first of all, we need to reset and realign with what you think your purpose is, how you are living up to it, what you are doing right, what you are doing wrong. And then it's like a unique opportunity for soul searching in a way, no? Then reassessment. I mean, what were the priorities before COVID? Which were the priorities that were most important to you in the pre-pandemic world? Are they still the same? A purpose is long-term, but it's not immune to changes in society, no? And then I think we need to reimagine to our best. what is the best you can do as a company, as a brand? Less than that is not good enough, because the purpose from now onwards is going to require more proof of purpose, more action, and less than the best you can do is just simply not good enough, no?
Yes, Sandra spoke about collaborate, and you speak often about brands as center of collaboration. What can we learn from your experience in Thailand, in Bangkok, to create this systemic change that we are looking for?
Okay, before we get into that, I have to correct something. I don't think brand is a center of collaboration. People is a center of the collaboration. Brand is just a platform. Brand cannot be center of the collaboration. But what brand can do is build a platform and put people, society into the middle. I think that's how we can create what we call the social collaboration. Because the minute that you say brand is a center of collaboration, you put the corporate purpose that could be like the conventional purpose into the middle of the process. So everything just answer to the corporation. But actually, right now, the brands should join hands to serve the society more and more. That's why we have SDG number 17, right? The partnership, okay? So brand, either small or big, should try to work together to create the platform of the collaboration, either along your own supply chain or off your supply chain, okay? I have one case. One of my clients, SME, she just like a street food, something that very common. She sell like a fried pork, okay? And it's a very like a one dish is only around $1. It's very affordable. It's something that for the mass people, okay? The day that we have a COVID, I just call her and say, let's do something for the healthcare people, because doctors, nurse working very hard and they has nothing to eat, okay? Let's serve them, okay? And she said, okay, I will do that. She just answered yes right away, okay? And she said that, don't just have only me doing it, because in order to come up with the fried pork dish, you need pork, you need oil, you need rice. So let's call our friends. Let's ask them to do it together. Maybe they want to do it, but they don't have opportunity. They don't have people who start this, the dialogue or start the platform. So we just announced into the Facebook. Within 1 week, we have a lot of like support from the brand. We got a lot of money from the people. So far, we can even serve like 60,000 meals to the healthcare people. These people at the center of the collaboration. Brand just acting like a platform, connect everything together. So I think we talk a lot about co-creation, that brand should co-create something with the consumer. I think right now, brands should learn to work among brands to serve the people better. There's no point that you have to do it alone. You should learn to join hands and listen more to what the society needs. That's what I call like a collective impact. Don't put the corporate issue, corporate objective into the center of the collaboration. Put the need of the people as the center, and then divide the role that the brand can play to serve the people better. I think that's how the brand should work in the future. It's a brand to brand cooperation to serve the society better. So we can get to the meaning of the partnership in a more meaningful way and like a more sustainable way, not just a project based. If we join hands together, we can do something more sustainable, something more fun, something more meaningful.
Definitely, the needs of the people at the center of everything. I imagine that this way of working, if we can say that, is what is going to make brands more resilient. Sandra, Xavier, and all of you, what can make a brand more resilient for the next future, for the future? This was the title of our webinar. What can make a brand more resilient, Sandra?
Hi, Sandra. Sustainability is actually a pillar of resilience, no? It has always been. And I think we realize about that, especially those days. We've made many decisions based on cost, on supply chain, on people, and now we realize that maybe those decisions were not so smart. No? I think this is all about looking at your core business model, and because you can work from the philanthropy side, but at the end of the day, if you do not look at your core business model and you still have red flags in that industry, sometimes it's not a question of the company, it's a question of the industry. I don't know, the industry of fashion, of technology and mobile phones, and they have red flags like red traffic lights, no, in their business models. And I think we need to work from there, because otherwise it's easy, and those efforts can be translated into simply purpose washing. No? I think you were mentioning that before we started, no? And all this, as I was saying before, requires like these collaborative efforts that we are trying to push. And I want to just note this this fact, which is that we need really transformational leadership. We need those leaders that can really break dogmas, that can enjoy getting out of their comfort zone. We need leaders that actually can create a strong culture that embraces change and that have discovered already the power of being a human leader, and who also are experts in engaging their teams around disruption. No? And purpose is not a marketing plan. Purpose is a backbone for the whole company, no?
Raquel, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. We are almost closing the webinar, but before doing that, I wanted to ask every one of you, what shouldn't we forget about the purpose to move forward after this crisis, this pandemic?
Okay, I'll take that. I'll start. So I think we all agree in that there's no option but to have a purpose. Okay, I mean, there's a saying that say not all brands need causes, but all brands need a conscience. And it's not acceptable not to have one. Now, it's also important to say that having one doesn't mean that you need to focus your whole communication strategy into building that one. It's perfectly acceptable as a brand leader to decide to have a nice and well-defined purpose and not to activate it to the public. You need one. You need to understand why you exist, but then what you communicate doesn't have always to be cause-related or purpose-related. Because ultimately, brands and products solve problems. So your first role for existence is to solve for needs. There is a temptation now that purpose has become so powerful to forget about that. Well, you don't have a reason to exist if you're not working for your primary for the benefit you primarily offer. So purpose or talking about your purpose is not going to solve that issue. So to close this, what should we forget about purpose moving forward? First, it's not on crisis that you define and you start activating a purpose, because you will do it in a rush and probably wrongly. This is something that you need to define and practice with time. If a crisis catch you and you're not clear on your purpose, okay, don't communicate. Just get reminded that you need to be clear on that, because it can be more harmful. So this is not something you do on crisis events, but it's something that you need to work on, because it gives meaning to what you do, to you, to your employees, to your consumer. And the other point that I was saying is purpose becomes very relevant at some point. Now, over the crisis, it has been critical for many of us. But don't forget, you are primarily there to solve problems. Mm-hmm. So be clear on what you solve for before jumping into saving the world. I'm obviously doing an exaggeration, but we easily get into that land when we talk purpose. Mm-hmm.
Please, Angel, only in one sentence, because we have some questions for the attendees. So in one sentence, what shouldn't we forget?
Yes, it's difficult, because I said at the beginning that purpose is crucial for organizations. And in one sentence, I come back to the roundtable, the business roundtable declaration last year, which is companies and businesses are there to provide and to create value for all their stakeholders, and business are there for the long term. So in order to do that, you need a purpose.
Mm-hmm. No, only one sentence. I'm going to show you one question of the public, because I think it's interesting and we are almost at the end. Amachara Agostinis asks, which stakeholders should be involved in the process of purpose definition? Only internal or also external? Please, Sandra and Nui, do you want to ask this question? Nui, I can, please, you are on mute, Nui.
I think to answer to that question would require more than one sentence, okay? But if I may say one sentence about the purpose, and maybe we can continue the conversation later. It doesn't matter what word or what the terminology or how you're going to frame the purpose, but the purpose must start from you, but aim for others. Okay? At the end of the day, everyone, every soul is the same person. Okay? Whatever happened to one life will have effect on other life. So make sure that the purpose starts from you, but end with other life, not end with you. But you have to be the one who started. So my one sentence to have everyone remember and think about it tonight is: purpose start from you, but must end for others. That's my one sentence.
Thank you, Nui. Sandra, your sentence, and we go with the question for the public.
I think I would reinforce two things. One is anything less than your best, and you are one of those purpose washers that we have some articles. And I hate that, but I think we cannot be afraid of talking about that. So anything less than your best is that. And then insisting on what Xavier said, it's okay not to be purposeful. It's important to be useful. Don't invent a purpose. Find and nurture your authenticity and your innovation for value. You don't need to have a purpose, but if you do it, you can not do anything less than your best. Well, answering the question very quick, happy to do it via mail or in a conversation if that person wants. Of course, I mean, for me, there is no question really. I really think that both stakeholders from the inside and the external stakeholders are key. Of course, you cannot do a proper process with everybody, but you need to do a list of priorities. No, I would point out as well that you need to take into account 5 dimensions. No, the transformation is not just purpose. You need to be coherent and you need to have legitimacy. So therefore, you have purpose, you have brand influence, you have supply chain and operations, you have innovation. So actually, at Quiero and in Sustainable Brands, we work with 5 of those dimensions. So purpose is the North Star, but then you have a lot of things that are going down from that North Star, and you need to talk about all of them with your stakeholders, okay? So happy to touch more on that if necessary, and I would leave it to my colleagues so they can close it.
Only one question more because we are on time. Do you believe companies within same sector are ready to share know-how or knowledge so they can help each other to win customers and keep them alive?
Can you repeat again, please?
Yes. Do you believe that companies in the same sector are ready to share know-how or knowledge so they can help each other to win customers and keep them alive in those times?
Well, actually, they do. And that's why there are associations where we meet respecting competition law to discuss about industry, how industry can develop and ultimately serve better the reason for being of that industry. I think that probably we can do it more. It's obviously a challenging area because we could be collaborating at the same time we're competing, but there are areas, and it is proven that the biggest driver of growth for any company is not share growth, it's value growth of the total category. So if we would find ways to jointly develop category value, there is growth for everybody. And obviously, if there's category value, it's because you're serving better consumers, so everybody wins. So I think the answer is yes. Now I think probably the work to be done is how do you make sure, how do you enable platforms to do that are not against the natural competition that needs to exist, which is also very healthy, by the way. Voilà.
Thank you too much, Javier. Thank you too much, Nui, Angel, Javier, and of course, Sandra, for helping us to understand a little more about the future of the purpose. We have spoken about how to humanize the brands and also the brand managers inside the company. We have spoken about how purpose must serve people and how must be put into action. We don't need only a tagline, we need a purpose real and action. Thank you too much, everybody, for your interest. We will share the webinar recorder very shortly. And we also will share some conversation that we are having at the global with experts on Europe, Asia, America, and we will share some highlights from all these conversations with you. So please be in touch. Thank you too much again, and follow us on our website and social media. Thank you too much.